Welcome back to another episode of Fatherhoods.
Yeah,
With us today,
back.
yeah, we back. We back, all right. And we black. We got
kind of, sort of.
we're all shades of black.
Hey,
Starting
man.
from the whitest down. Oh no, where we where the fuck that came?
I pulled the EFM, bro. You know how you like to rhyme words. I just throw it out there. Back in black, bro. We here. No, we're gonna have our guests introduce themselves actually, but he hails from the Windy City. He's out in the Shy right now, and I'm gonna let he goes by Pop. I'm gonna let him explain what that means.
But he's Pops here.
But he's definitely a Pops for sure. Yo, Pop, take it over, man. Where you from? What's the deal?
So number one, it's an honor to kick it with you guys and join your amazing platform that's very educational to the structure of, just family and being a father. So everybody calls me Pop for short, which stands for Prince of Pain. That's a spoken word artist stage name. I did a lot of spoken word coming home. And I made a name for myself in Chicago doing the poetry, getting into music, getting into broadcasting. And I thought this would be a very great opportunity, maybe for a person like myself who spent 20 years incarcerated and my daughter, being a baby when I went away. Wow. And us just reconnecting. And, I think it'd be very enlightening to a lot of people and educational.
Well, before we get started, we have to do two things. One, nope, that's the wrong one.
Bro?
No, that was the wrong one.
Yeah. Yo, Manny, learn to use that shit, dog.
I gotta look at this shit. That's the problem. I wasn't looking. My bad.
Gonna have to take it away from you, man.
Yo, so Pop, so you have one child?
Yes.
A daughter, and she was born. How old is she now?
She's 27.
So damn. So you went away for 20 years, and how long have you been back in her life? 2 years?
So no, I've been home already. March will make 10 years I've been home.
Okay.
I was actually fighting for her custody to have my family get her a couple years before I came home. She was going through some things as a teenager. That didn't happen. And when she was about 18, I finally touched down and we picked up from there.
Wow. When you were away, did you have much contact with her? Was she coming to visit? Anything like that?
No, her mom, she had trouble with her mom and her stepdad. So she went through this through the system for from 15 to 18 years old.
Wow.
Damn.
So I couldn't see her other than phone calls.
And for our audience, can you explain a little bit more? What does that mean when you say she went through the system? Like what exactly?
She got taken away from her mom, wound up in foster care, and until she turned 18, from 15 to 18 years old.
How was that experience for her? Like, what did she tell you about it?
Well, the reason she left was because she was violated by her stepfather.
Oh.
So that was really traumatic for her. It took some time.
Man.
It took some time to I don't even think she ever adjusted in other foster homes. And I think she really started shaking the pain and trauma off once I got home.
Now, when you got home, was there, I know there was probably a lot of work to do and reconnecting to do.
Hell yeah.
How immediate was at least the initial bond? Was she happy to see you? What was that initial kind of feeling?
The love was there. What I had a lot of difficulty with was she was stubborn, like I was when I was a teenager, and it was a whole trust thing. I had to earn my trust again. But it was difficult at the beginning, but we rocked it. We learned each other's stubbornness, and I love her with all my heart, and as she does me. It just took some time. It took patience. It took a lot of me learning and trying to understand. You know, I wasn't there for her for all them years.
How so
Hold on. Sorry,
Yeah,
Manny,
yeah,
but
go.
I just gotta wrap my mind around how did
You don't have to
you cope
cry.
with that?
Don't
How
cry,
do you
bro.
cope with it
Well,
being
the
locked up and hearing about what's going on the outside with your
oh
daughter?
man, that drove me crazy. You know, it bugged me up. Uh, when I first heard about it, you know, of course you just want to break out, you know, and do something to the
Mm.
person who harmed your daughter.
Right.
Uh, but for a while, it just made me feel more helpless, not being able to put her in a better situation. So it plays on you, you know, it plays on your head, plays on your emotions. It wears you down physically too, as well. When you're in a helpless situation where you want to do something for a loved one and you can't.
Mhm.
And when you get home, do you still have like do you want to do something to that person? Like what are those feelings, man? Like like I'm just saying, like I can't imagine. You know, I have a daughter and she's young right now. And I just the thought of that, like the anger that it brings out inside of
Yes,
me
yes,
for
yes.
something that hasn't even happened, you know?
The guy's in another state. He lives in another state.
Right.
So that made it easier for me not to, you know, just kind of help her move forward, allow myself to move forward and just let karma deal with it. So,
Right.
you know, I made some promises to a lot of people when I came home, including her, my mom, that I wouldn't go back. You know what I mean?
Right,
That I
right.
wouldn't go back to
Which is
uh
important.
yeah, I've tried to be the best role model for her as I possibly can. I've also built my own media company out here. I've won numerous poetry awards. I've won a humanitarian award for empowerment, mentoring. I've featured in a couple of films last year and this year. So I've just been trying to, you know, be a good role model to her and inspire her, and at the same time mentor her. But at the same time, she's taught me a lot about life as well. You know, these kids nowadays, they're very smart. You know.
Right.
That was going to be my question. So you were away for 20. Technology advanced so fast. Like there's so much that you missed out on. Not to mention, obviously, you know, time with your child. How hard was the transition? Because you got multiple challenges coming out of prison, right? You got the family dynamic challenge, which in and of itself is a whole universe. Then on top of that, you got acclimating yourself with society very different than what you knew it to be. How up on things were you behind bars as compared to when you came out to help ease that transition?
Well, you can't compare it no matter how in tune you are with people, friends, or whatnot. It's not the same. When you're gone for 2 decades, when you missed out on the Y2K, this bombing, the Tupac getting, I missed a lot. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it was definitely a challenge. You know, I had to pretty much isolate myself from everybody for a minute. Pick up on technology. I was culture shocked.
Yeah.
So it was a whole transition. It was rough, but again, I vowed myself to better myself. I mean, you know, I dedicated myself to better myself. Um, it wasn't easy surviving 20 years in an Illinois prison. So I felt if I can do that, you know, it wasn't much harder to put one foot in front of the other and be successful, you know.
How much strength do you draw from fatherhood to stay, you know, on the straight path?
Well, it's very motivational, you know, and I have to, you know, take heed and educate myself with strong stories, strong role models, and even though my situation might be a little bit, well, a lot different, it's all still about love, you know, and about
Right.
parenting. So, you know, I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With your daughter's relationship with you post coming out of prison is one thing. And there was gaps, it sounds like, because there was a period between 15 and 18 where it was really difficult for you guys to see each other communicate. Prior to that, though, you guys were building a relationship. I'm assuming, and you take us through this a little bit. How was that being developed? Right? Was it more phone calls, or was she able to see you? Like, because it's really, I just find it really interesting, and I can't even imagine how I would go about it. You come out after 20, you start to pick up pieces that in a relationship with your kid that spans 20 years with so much shit that changes and there's so little interaction. Like, how do you go about that? But there has to be some foundation. So I'm curious about that.
So the 10 years at the beginning of her life, there was no contact.
Oh shit.
The mom, moved on, and until my daughter started getting rebellious and she wanted to know who her dad was. I think the impact that my brother and my mom still being involved in her life always helped. That was the dynamic. My brother, my cousins, and maybe even her side, her mom's side of the family, there was people that still were going to say positive things. Yeah, that's what kept us kind of. It kept her still holding on. So Poppy comes home.
And there was no way to have something amicable set up with the baby mom in this case, right? Like you and her couldn't even have a conversation, probably.
No, it was that. And then especially after my kid got violated, I want to say she was about 14 years old. So there was nothing ever to talk about. She took the guy's side. The guy was a registered sex offender. There's no reason not to believe a kid,
Damn.
That's
Now,
rough, man.
is your daughter on her own now, or does
Yeah,
she live with you, or?
Yeah, when I first came home, I got my own place. She stood with me for a little while. And it was a struggle, the stubbornness. And it took us about 2-3 years to kind of understand each other and respect each other without the her being rebellious towards dad, that knowing that I just wanted the best for her. She's moved on. She's grown. She has a relationship. She has a job. She's doing great. We see each other every other weekend.
Does
She
she
stays in
ever
another
have?
state.
Does she ever have a chip on her shoulder about you being away?
Man, thank God, no, never. At first,
Right.
that was like why she was so stubborn, that I was away for so long, and who the hell am I?
She held it against you, right?
You're right. Every time she would get mad, I think we would go back there. Well, you were gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
But she's grown up, and I think after like 5-6 years of her seeing a lot of the things I accomplished, putting in so much work and effort, I think the proof was in the pudding. I won her over.
Could it also have been maybe a defense mechanism, right? Because she would likely assume, like, I don't know how long he's gonna be here. He's been away that long. Like, trying to set herself up not to be disappointed.
Yeah, that could
if
be
you
it.
end up going back to prison.
Absolutely, maybe, yeah, absolutely, that could have been it.
Because I mean, you
one of
just
the
said
things.
it, like you being able to prove all these things out and meaningfully show like you're moving the fuck away from that life, maybe was a really big significant piece in your guys' bond. I could
Yes.
definitely see that.
Yeah, and it's got to be hard for a child who didn't have their father for that amount of time to want to open up, not knowing if you're just gonna go back, go away again. So I would
100.
imagine that's like even subconsciously protecting themselves.
Yeah. I got a question for you, Pop, and it's so there's a dad group that I started. It's called Fly Dad Central, and within it we have discourse with dads of all stages, I call it, right? And there was a conversation recently where one of the group members there was like expressing himself about a challenge that he has in keeping in touch with his son. The dynamics are different than your circumstance, but I wonder if you have some advice for somebody like him, right? Because you were away more than in this case, but I'll explain. So his kid now lives in France. He's here in the US. The mama drama is pretty substantial. The mom doesn't really want, she's putting blockers in place for him to like be able to communicate with his son. Because your scenario is so much more, I'd say, strenuous, right? Just given the dynamics of where you were and how you were trying, and then what happened to your daughter. What advice would you give to somebody for him, it's horrible, but I'd call it a slightly easier situation than yours, to try to navigate that? And his kid is like 10, so there's still a lot of time between now and when they can, be free to choose.
Well, I mean, there's definitely a huge distance. He's in France and she's in the States, right?
So
It's
the
like
dad's
Prince.
here and the child is in France
Oh, okay,
with the
okay.
mom.
I mean, legally, he's got to do whatever. I mean, he's not locked up. He's not in prison. So
Right.
legally, he's got to, I think there's circumstances where you can't just up and just take your kid out of state or to another country without the dad's permission.
Right.
So I don't know how that's planned, but I say never give up. Always try to be in the child's heart, his head, even if it's a birthday card, even if it's a phone call, even if it's an encouraging word. The kids are the boy's only 10, but as he grows older, I wouldn't try to be dad. I would try to be more of a friend instead of, hey, don't do this, don't do that. Have patience, grow up with them. I mean, it's your fault too. It didn't work out. So, understand that it's not the child's fault and you're an adult and that's a child. So have patience, man. Don't lose your love. Don't lose don't lose your patience and don't give up hope on rekindling and having a strong relationship with your son. That's what I gotta say.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's because like I've never been to prison, barely visited anyone in prison. So I can never understand now when you put a child into the mix, right? Let alone like personally being locked up for 20 years, no kids, challenging as fuck. Then you got a kid on the outside. Like the dimensions of this shit just get crazy. Like, how do you keep sane through that time?
God, man, I got strong faith. I've been through a lot of situations in life where the higher power proved to me he's there. So I never gave up. I always stood inspired, motivated, even in the darkest of times. I want to say sometimes even in the most captive place, I felt the most freest. There's people out here that you see them, you look at them, you talk to them. It's like they're in prison, and it's sad, So I think freedom is all a state of mind, and energy and your spirit. So I just still connected with God, just knew I was gonna have another chance and I would see my mom again, I would see my daughter again, and that's what kept me pushing.
Were there any groups in prison of like fathers trying to work things out as in that same situation?
Nope,
No peer groups like that?
none.
You think it would make sense for that stuff like that to be created in prison?
Absolutely.
Were
Yeah,
there other folks that would talk about it just on some anything like a subject matter, or was that just kind of off limits and everyone just kind of keeps that to themselves?
when you're doing that much time, or when you're in such a violent environment, most of my time I did in max prisons. You don't try to share too
Yeah.
much of your
Right.
personal life. It makes you vulnerable. Yeah, you don't do that.
Yes,
Yeah. So what would be your advice to someone incarcerated right now, looking at, a long time and they have a child out there? Like, what would be your advice to them?
If you have family members that you're connected to, or friends that really care about you, man, always check on your kids. No matter if you and the baby mother, it was her fault or your fault, or there's nobody at fault. Try to, understand that that's the mother of your child. You're gonna have to have a relationship where kiss some ass, be
Right.
nice, and try to do whatever you have to do to maintain uh, a relationship with your child, and try to push as much love and motivational people around your child.
Would you, and the guys are going to get on my case, would you be inclined to have more children at this stage of your life?
I say no.
Okay.
But, yeah, I run into women who are a little younger and they're not done.
Right.
Right.
And that's not what I'm trying to do right now, Yeah, I think I'm done with
You think you're good?
raising little ones. Yeah, my brother just had a baby about 8-9 months ago, and I'm cool. I'll borrow his. You know what I mean?
Right.
He already did the time, man.
Yeah.
Cool
Yeah, right.
now.
Don't do self-inflicted time. Fuck that.
I think anybody who does that much time and comes back, in his 40s, you're not trying to. Yeah,
Right.
you're trying. You want to maybe live life a little bit yourself now.
Yeah, yeah. Makes sense. So you
So
play
how-
you play Theo for a couple hours every now
Right.
and then you
I'm
just
good. I'm good. I've played stepdaddy here and there. You know what I mean?
There you go.
So
Yeah.
when you first started, when your daughter was a little older and you guys started having some communication on the phone, what was that like for you? And also how easy or difficult was it to, shake off those feelings once you got off the phone and you had to be back in your circumstances?
So what's crazy is if DJ EFN asked me how did I feel about what happened. So at the beginning of this, she was still a minor. And the only reason I got contacted was because I was her guardian as well.
Yeah.
So like for a while, I was just I want to say 6 months to a year, I was going to court cases for her to try to get custody of her. I would speak to her caseworker, but just hearing all these facts of bad things that happened to my daughter. So we didn't initially get like a one-on-one phone call for a while. Everything was brief. See her at court, how you doing? I love you. And it took a while, maybe I want to say a good 2 years until we regularly started talking, because it's expensive too, especially when you're in prison and the collect calls. And then I think with her I had to have them set up through a caseworker. But after speaking to her and hearing her pain and then coming back to back to my regular lockdown life, it made me feel terrible. It really did, because of our situation. But at the same time, always hopeful, that we're going to get through it.
You said something, and I want to make sure I'm hearing this right. You were in prison, but you were still trying to get custody.
Yes, trying to get my family, my mom or my brother, to
Okay.
get custody of her.
And the court system would allow you to come out for those court dates?
They would take me themselves. They would put me, shackle me up, put me on a van, take me to the court date.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know
a lot of
that
people
was
know that that's possible.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
no idea.
You really gotta, like, whether you're locked up or not, you like in the case of the dude that you're talking about, man, you really gotta max out all your different legal options. And
there was one time, DJ EFN, where I thought I had a son.
Shit.
They put me on a bus, they cuffed me up, they said they were taking me to the county jail for a parental hearing that my son was arrested with a 25 caliber pistol. So I get to the court. Now I have a notice of this, that I'm going to court in 2 weeks. Now for 2 weeks, I'm going crazy. I'm like, who's the mother? The kids, his name is my name. The kid's dad is my legal name. But I get to court, it's the wrong guy, wrong Eddie. You know what I mean?
oh shit.
Yo, that is crazy though.
But they will take you to court for, they'll take you to court.
I wonder if every state is the same when it comes to that.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I mean, that, given the circumstances, it's really nice to hear that, because.
And you were in federal prison, correct?
No, I was in state.
State, okay, state.
So, yeah, because being able to show face for your kid in that circumstance is big. And again, like back to like you guys bonding and making a relationship happen afterward. Like I'm sure that scored you some good points also, because maybe you were forced to. Does the state force you to be in that? Or
that's what I wanted to touch on. They couldn't get around the fact of not bringing me to some legal hearings, because my rights were never taken. And at this time, that's exactly what was going on. The state was taking her mom's rights for allowing that stuff to happen, for still being with the guy. And so they had to bring me to court.
That's interesting, man. You would think that your rights would be taken automatically for going in. I mean, that's what
That's the
you would think.
misconception I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is all new to me that you were still
The
allowed
only
those.
the only way you lose your parental rights, from what I understand, is if you do something to your child, if
Right.
you get caught up in some child endangerment or neglect or something like that.
Wow.
Shit, that's a fatherhood gem right there.
Yeah, for real.
And pass that around.
Yeah, protect your parental rights at all costs.
Hmm?
So your daughter's approaching 30. Is there talk of, I mean, the eventuality of her wanting to have her own children?
Funny you asked that. So she likes
Manny
girls.
and everybody wanting to have, he wants everyone to have kids.
Okay.
Do you hear me,
Well,
Manny?
no, this is real life, bro. Let's talk about it. Come on.
So she likes girls.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. She has a
But
girlfriend.
she could still have kids.
Yeah, they can still have kids.
Well, we've never talked about
I
it.
know some
don't-
couples that have kids.
Yeah. Well, maybe. You know what? I'll probably bring that up.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I mean, then that's granddad time, right? So like that's a whole different
Yeah.
stage of shit that you got to deal with. But still,
Yeah.
it's borrowing and then giving back. So you're
Yes,
still
yes.
good.
Right.
Yes.
So listen, to touch on that though, now that you bring that up, how was that for you accepting that?
Ooh. Okay. So I kind of wanted I got locked up in '93.
Mhm.
That stuff was taboo back then.
Right.
You didn't see two girls holding hands like that. Everything was in the closet. At the beginning, when I found out, I wanted to blame it all on her being violated.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I said that changed her. In my head, I said, I felt bad for her, and I wanted to use that as an excuse, But I mean, after studies, and I mean, you're either born like that, or that's just the way you are, or she doesn't have interest in men. I got to accept that. I got to love her. I loved her anyways. That didn't matter to me, to tell you the truth, it really
Right.
didn't matter to me. The only thing that kind of I was not comfortable with was the whole grandfather thing. You know what I mean? Like, am I gonna be a granddad? Ever?
Right.
Right.
So that was the only thing, and that's her choice.
That's dope. I mean, it's dope to hear. Like, we talk about. I'm sure anybody listening, probably the thought comes to their mind, like, what if my child ends up being homosexual or transgender or whatever their choice is? And it's a really hard thing to wrap your head around. If whatever path you are traditionally accustomed to, right? Like, I think all of us here, it sounds like heterosexual has been what we know. And we know others that are in other, segments of the population. But when it comes home, it's hard to wrap your head around. And my wife and I have the conversation every so often. And it's like, at the end of the day, we get to the same point that you're at. It's like, it'll be tough. We got to get adjusted, but we're going to support the kid no matter what the fuck. We just got to get used to it.
Yeah, man. Listen, it boils down to just love. You love your children regardless, unconditional.
I'm not gonna lie though, it would have been a lot harder for me, a lot harder if I had a son. I don't know how you guys feel, but just
if your son was gay, you're saying.
Right. If I had a son, and I mean, I think that would have been a lot harder for me to accept, understand. Yeah. And I mean, I'm just being honest,
You think it's just culturally, like the macho Latino side? Like what
150%.
Right. Okay.
It's from coming from that Jibaro household that we had some rough conversations from our grandparents. My stepdad he was a beast talking about homosexuals, and it was like the worst taboo that it can be. And I don't have anything against homosexuals at all. Everybody's a human being. I've been home 10 years to understand it's a whole totally different world. I just think it would have been at that time very, very hard for me. It would have been harder to accept a son than my daughter.
That's interesting. I think I would agree with you.
That's
probably how it would go down.
Not on the same exact topic, but I'm curious what you guys think. And then Manny, you're probably starting to approach this. And I'm speaking mainly for boys. I got a 9-year-old son, and my wife and I, we haven't necessarily taken a deep dive and figured out when we're gonna start doing this. But like, when do you guys think it's the right time to start talking to boys about sex and starting to have those talks? And I bring it up. I mean, we've talked a little bit about this before, but like, my son is getting more and more into music, and so like he's got like Tribe is his favorite group right now, and I put together a bunch of songs. And then, but as I start to listen a little bit more intently, even though some of the beats feel kind of mellow and feel good, they're still talking about some stuff up there.
No, yeah,
and,
trust me.
And so as of late, he's starting to ask more and more, like, well, what does this mean, and what's this talking about? Or I hear him saying stuff, and I'm like, oh shit. And so now it's just more and more, the older he gets and the more he's watching different things or listening to different things, the more I'm like perking up as to, wow, there's a lot of just sex references everywhere. And I'm starting to wonder, like, damn, is he too young to have this conversation still, or does it need to happen? And I'm curious what you guys think about age on this topic.
I'll tell you. So all my kids are listening to hip hop all the time. My 5-year-old, my 8-year-old, my 14-year-old. My son is the 8-year-old, and the way I'm mentally preparing for that, when that happens, is to play offense, right? So like, as soon as the curiosity peaks, I need to be ready to have a conversation with him in a manner that he can understand, that is not crazy.
Right.
Because that's the battle I always have. It's like,
but don't blame hip hop though. You said because they're listening to hip hop.
No, wait. I'm gonna get into hip hop.
Marvin Gaye was breaking it down. Even the fucking Backstreet Boys are talking about sex. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna get to the hip hop.
Don't blame hip hop.
I'm gonna get to the hip hop in a second. Hold on. So I'll make sure I'm trying not to deflect when there's genuine curiosity, because I think that's more dangerous down the road, because then you leave them to figure it out for themselves and their friend groups, versus me trying to instill in him some sort of responsible explanation around what it is that he's asking about.
But I mean, what kind of age are you, like, if he started asking now? So for instance, I mean, aside from music, but like if we put on the Impractical Jokers because we think it's funny, but then all of a sudden, they start coming out the mouth with, sex stuff, and he's kind of wondering, well, why is that funny, or what are they, and so it's just kind of everywhere. I'm like, damn, do we need to talk to him now? Yeah, it's unavoidable. So I don't know.
I think he's at the age, bro, like 8, 9. I don't see that. That's not, you got to have the conversation at that age.
I say this. I got, kids I work with and mentor, and that's that point. 9, 10 years old. You want to start educating them.
So those kids that you're mentoring, are they already hip to everything, or they just starting to learn about it?
A lot of them come from rough, high risk communities.
Mm-hmm.
So these kids are pretty smart already, and they're already 9, 10 years old. They might be loading pistols. You know what I mean?
Right. I got you.
So
plus, and when you think about little boys, you got to think that little girls are already advanced in their development. So little boys are noticing these little girls' bodies changing, and they going through menstrual cycles and all this stuff. So they're gonna start looking at it and being and their bodies are gonna react to that.
So real quick, to tie back to hip hop, so Cardi B, my kids hear Cardi B and they're like 101 questions. 101 questions.
Right.
And I'm like, some of them I have to deflect. I'm like, you ain't ready for all that shit. Just back up.
Right.
But then I'm like, and I'll just generalize. I'll be like, okay, that's sexual, inappropriate. Let's not talk about that right now. But I address it, right? I'm not just like saying like, you don't know what the fuck you talk. Don't say that. My kids I try to give them the liberty to like enjoy the music, but not really live the music.
Right. So your son is 8 now. I mean, what are you thinking? 9, 10?
No, I'm thinking now.
Thinking now. Okay.
We're having small conversations about it every now
Right.
and then. He knows way more than he leads on, and I know he
I'm sure.
knows.
I'm sure
The
my
kids are
son does
always
too.
gonna
'cause
know more than we know that
yeah,
they
because
know.
they talk
You
to
know
their
what I'm
friends about all this shit, and
Yeah.
especially if the friends have older brothers or sisters, and they're getting stuff from them,
And they got the internet, man.
Yeah.
Come on. When we was kids, we was hoping to find a
porno
Playboy
mag.
that someone
Yes.
dropped
Right.
somewhere in the trash or something.
Wait till your parents go to sleep and put on TV or private lessons or something.
HBO After Dark or
Yes,
whatever. Like, oh
yes,
shit, what is this? You know?
Mhm.
Yo,
But
but
now they just Google the shit.
tied to this topic though, my daughter, my 5-year-old, comes home from kindergarten the other day, and she's got a little like some fucking thing that some kid made, right? And he gave it to her, and he gave her something else too. I think he drew a picture or something, and it's a heart-shaped little trinket that he made. And then she comes into the house and she's like, "Ma, look what so and so gave me." And then he also did this, and I know she knew what that signified. She knew the little kid was feeling her, but she didn't seem like she was feeling him. So she kind of was just like, oh, whatever. Like, I was like, you little motherfucker. I was like, I'm mad on both sides. I'm not even mad at the kid, right? I'm mad at my because I know my daughter is everything that she talks about, thinks about is relationship. She loves the idea of being in love, and she's 5. So it's beautiful, but it's scary because women are just generally smarter, more advanced than guys physically, and all that. So it's like there's gonna come a point where it's really still gonna be too young for me to be okay with her like exploring shit. And so every time I see these little examples, I like tense up, and my wife is like, "Yeah, we're fucked," and I'm like, I don't want to hear that, bro.
Hey, but before we start to wrap up, Pops, can you talk a little bit about going back to the mentorship and what you do there and the importance of that?
Well, I didn't have my real pops when I grew up. I had my stepdad. He was pretty abusive to moms and myself. So I think it's key, man, for a lot of young men and boys to get caught with some type of strong male figure in their life, someone they can look up to, so they don't go down that path, so they don't wind up with 10, 20 years locked up. There are programs needed, programs not only just for the kids, good kids, but kids that are a little bit troubled. I involve myself in programs where the editing, music, stuff that kids already love to do, and if you can communicate and get some type of common ground.
Yeah, relate, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got them, they'll mess with you more,
Yeah.
So big ups to all the people who do run programs and spend their own money for equipment to like right now I'm at an amazing facility, and these kids come here sometimes just to get away from home, even if they're not here doing no work, just because the environment,
Right.
Yeah, so
that's important.
Where can people check out what you're doing, Prince? Like, just I know you said you got media company and you got a bunch of stuff going on.
Sure.
So how should people check you out?
I have a website for myself. It's princeofpain.com. I have a website for the media company, which is Pop Radio Worldwide .com, which is putting on people radio. We are on iHeartRadio, Pop Radio Worldwide, Spotify, Pop Radio Worldwide, Instagram, Pop Radio Worldwide, or my page, Official Prince of Pain.
Dope.
Oh.
Yo, brother,
thank you, man. Appreciate you, dog.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to kick it with y'all and have the opportunity to voice my, experience, and hopefully it can help somebody.
I hope so.
Yeah,
too.
man. And we hope to have you back as well.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Peace to you guys. I'm gonna get my butt back to work right here.
Peace, brother. Thank you, man.
All right, man.
Thank you for your
Appreciate
time.
it.
Much love, guys. Keep
Later.
doing what you guys doing. Keep rocking.
Thank you, dog.
bro.